Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you for Thursday, June 12th, the Thursday edition of Better Off Dead. You won't get Tower Gang anymore, but you'll get me on here, which is just as good and even way more autistic. Is that right? I don't know. Should I try to be funnier on the show? I've thought about it, but my autism gets in the way, or I'm like so focused on like baseball. I'm like, I can't be funny right now. What? Yesterday, 2-1 on the show. We got the win on the Indiana Pacers. I told you, man, it was a spot play, and I still think that Oklahoma City is going to win that series. They are definitely the better team. Either team could have won the game last night. I mean, Oklahoma City started out hot, and then the game was close down the stretch. I didn't see it because I was at another Queens of the Stone Age show, but and I was in the Fenway mob again because it's right near Fenway, so the Red Sox crowd was out again, and you could kind of tell that the Red Sox won, like just by looking at the crowd as they're exiting the stadium. So they won the last two games, but the crowd is just like in a different mood when they win than when they lose, even if it's a random regular season game. Anyway, Indiana, they did get the job done. The game was close in the fourth quarter, and then at that point, if you have the underdog, you're in a good position, right? Because you don't even need them to win the game. You just need them to cover that. But as I said, if they were going to cover that, I thought they were probably going to win outright. They did, so the money line part of that would hit as well. I wish I was betting these right now. And again, as I have been saying, I'm not actually betting these plays right now, just to conserve money. But I am giving out the plays that I would be playing. So Indiana Pacers got the win. I will say, as I was watching this series unfold, like after Indiana pulled off game one, I was thinking, well, first of all, I know I'm going to bet Oklahoma City in game two or give that out as a play. Yes, okay. But then just even when the series started, I was thinking game three is probably going to be like an Indiana game. Like that's just kind of how the series dynamics work. But after Indiana won game one, what I was thinking is if it goes according to what I think it's going to go, like if the series goes the way that I think it's going to go and we get Oklahoma City winning game two easily, then Indiana gets, the zigzag spot in game three. If they win that game, go up 2-1, you're going to get the cheapest price that you'll see on Oklahoma City to win the series. So the series price is now down to minus 230 or something like that. When the series started, Oklahoma City was minus 600. And after they lost game one, they were still like minus 300, 320, whatever. So I think Oklahoma City to win the series at minus 230, I think is actually a good bet right now. The public is all in love with Indiana right now, man. And if they're up 2-1 now this far into the series, the public is like, Indiana can win this series. I still don't think so. The odds makers are telling you otherwise. There's a reason why Oklahoma City is still a big favorite here. They're going to be a favorite in every game. And my opinion is that Oklahoma City is going to win all of the remaining games in the series and win 4-2. I mean, maybe that'll get clipped and people will shit on me and come back and make fun of me for how wrong I am. But I would bet that Oklahoma City series price right now, if you can afford the juice there, you don't have to have your money tied up for that long. It's only going to be a couple of weeks. So I would do that. Oklahoma City to win the series at minus 320, I think is a very good bet right now. David, thanks for hanging out again. You're a daily commenter, man. I like it. Thanks, man. And then we had the two baseball plays. The under in the first four innings for Atlanta-Milwaukee. I kind of think I got a little bit screwed on that one, man, because Spencer Schwellenbach was as good as you would think. He gave up one run in that span. He pitched a complete game, I think giving up 2 runs maybe in the whole game, but I think he gave up 1 in the first 5 innings. He had an excellent outing. Chad Patrick on the other side racked up a bunch of strikeouts, but he walked a few too many, and or a couple too many at least, and he gave up 2 home runs. And that just kind of ruined the whole thing as he wound up giving up 5 runs in the first 5 innings or whatever, and that destroyed the whole thing. So that sucked. And the bullpens are actually better than I thought. But I think the total was 7.5, so the full game total still went over too. That just sucked, but that was the one loser. And then Baltimore Orioles were an easy win yesterday, although they were only up 2-0 pretty deep into that game. And then they had a 7-run explosion in one of the later innings and wound up winning the game way more easily, but that was all part of the handicap, man. I was taking Detroit's somewhat tired bullpen into consideration there in the handicap as well. I liked Baltimore. I liked the spot for it. So the final score being 10-1 makes me look smart. Let's go to today. We have no WNBA, no NBA. We only have NHL, and a short MLB card. NHL, I'm going to give out a play on this, and I'm going to go against the market. I'm going to recommend Edmonton as a moneyline dog here. This is probably going to be the biggest dog price you will get on Edmonton in the series unless Florida wins this game. It goes back to Edmonton. Edmonton wins the next game, and then we get a Florida game 6. Then that might be the biggest price on Florida, possibly. But I think this is the biggest underdog price you're going to get on Edmonton. And I think it's the right spot to do it. This is the first play and may wind up being the only play I'm going to recommend in the Stanley Cup Finals because I've stayed away from it so far. Florida is sitting at minus 145. They got 57% of tickets, 77% of the cash on them, though. So the money looks like it is on Florida, but I don't really agree with that. And I'm not really even sure that that percentage is really accurate. I think this is a spot where you can take Edmonton. Florida has looked like the better team, and I'm kind of surprised that the public isn't on Florida more right now. I mean, the public loved Edmonton, I think, coming into the series because Edmonton scores a ton. But I think after falling down 2-1 and losing the last 2 games, I would have expected the public to kind of be more on the Florida side now. And I guess they sort of are. So I'm going to kind of fade that sentiment here, even though, yes, I do think Florida is the better team. I thought it was going to be a close series. I do have Florida winning my bracket. When I did my bracket special, I have Florida as the champion over the Avs. So I definitely screwed that up. I got the other 2 teams right in the conference finals, though. But Florida, first 2 games are close, and I think Florida actually somewhat outplayed Edmonton in the 2 road games. I mean, Florida had a 3-1 lead in the first game, blew it. They had the lead in the final seconds, basically, of the second game and allowed Edmonton to tie it somehow on a freak goal, kind of. And then Florida wound up winning in overtime. They came back home and they won in an absolute dominating score, at least 6-1. But this is why I think that there's going to be value on Edmonton here now, because even though the line is actually almost about the same as it was in that game, coming off a blowout like this, you usually do want to look to the team that got blown out because they're the team that can make some adjustments here. I know Florida's a bit tough to fade at home. They're definitely pretty good at home. Oilers have been fairly good on the road too, though. So I'm not as concerned by that. You're getting an underdog price here. When you play a moneyline underdog like this, you're not saying that they're going to win every single time. You're just saying you think they're going to win more often than what the odds suggest. So you only need a team at like a price like that to win like 47, 48% of those times. So you're like taking the shot on it, just saying that there's value on that number. And I think that there is. If you dig into this box score here, Florida scored 3 power play goals in the game. I know Edmonton's 1 goal was also on the power play, but 3 power play goals. So that's one thing to take into consideration, where Florida was kind of having the edge of the penalty situation. And you can see here the Oilers had a ton of penalty minutes, 85 penalty minutes compared to Florida's 55. And both of those numbers are high. But that was, of course, because there was like a huge brawl at the end of the game. So, you know, you can kind of ignore that a little bit. But Florida did have the upper hand as far as the power plays were concerned. So that affected the game a bit. And it may be a little bit less one-sided in this game here. Also, as you can see here, Edmonton won the shot battle, although some of that is because when you're losing, you put up a bunch of desperation shots. So maybe there's not a whole lot to read into that, but Edmonton had more shots. They actually had more hits. So they were actually the more physical team, which you wouldn't necessarily expect because Florida is kind of the better defensive team. The Oilers were more the offensive team. And the Oilers did win the face-off battle as well. So the Oilers did win like kind of on the stat sheet there. So I think it was a result that didn't really tell the entire story of what went on in that game. So I do think there is a little bit of value coming back and playing this to be at least a much closer game here and grabbing the Oilers as the underdog there. You do have to worry about their goaltending because Skinner, even though he was good throughout the playoffs, he hasn't been that good in this series, and I kind of expected it because I just don't think he's that good of a goalie. I think Bobrovsky for the Panthers is the better of the 2 goalies. So, and that kind of showed up in the last game. Bobrovsky obviously had the better game. Assuming he was in net, I assume he was. I didn't even look. Really, I had the game on for a little while. I just never really paid that much attention to it. But Edmonton is what I'm recommending in that game on the money line, even though I am rooting for Florida because I don't want Canada to win. So that's what we got there. Let's go to Major League Baseball. I'm only going to have one play, And it is in what I think is probably the most interesting and fun pitching matchup of the day. So we'll get to that eventually. We have some afternoon games today because it's Thursday. A lot of teams are off today, and the other teams are going to be starting new series tomorrow, except the game that I'm going to play is actually a new series starting today, so that might give you a hint as well, because I think that only applies to 2 games today. Washington is at the Mets. The Mets, I believe, are on the verge of a sweep here. Yeah, so the Mets have won the last 2. They just shut out Washington yesterday. So it might not be the greatest spot for the Mets, really, because when a team is on the verge of a sweep, they just pulled off a shutout. A lot of times you kind of want to look to that other team, although the Mets don't really have a look ahead here. They have Tampa next, which isn't really a huge series for the Mets, I wouldn't imagine. So I think any look ahead spot doesn't really exist here, although, yeah, Washington should be a little bit pissed about getting shut out yesterday and want to bounce back here. Problem is, of course, as we know, Washington has the way worse bullpen. So if you're going to do anything with this game, you have to take that into consideration. Mets have a significant bullpen edge here. And I believe that is the case even after yesterday, because a 5-0 game, you don't really see a lot of bullpen usage usually. Yeah, so Peterson actually threw a complete game. He continues to pitch above his A grade, in my opinion. And Washington didn't really use much of their relief staff either yesterday. So the bullpen situation is what it is. Like, you have rested bullpens here for the most part. It's just Washington's bullpen sucks. Soroka is the starter for Washington here. 4.86 ERA, not very good. 1.11 whip actually is fairly good and kind of indicates that he's pitching better than his ERA would tell you. He is in decent form right now. He is coming off a nice performance against Texas. 2-hit shutout, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, which does tell you he's in pretty decent form, and his strikeout-walk ratio has been good for the entire season, so he has actually been pretty good. He's been a bit worse on the road, though, with a 5.85 ERA, so that's a little bit of a concern. The Mets have seen him a bit before. Only 5 of their hitters have seen him before, but they have done a lot of damage in the past against him. Maybe when he was on the Braves back in the day, they faced him, and he hasn't done well against the Mets. And 43 at-bats, he has a 7.7 strikeout-walk ratio, which isn't good. A pretty high 4 home runs allowed there, which is not good. This is a nice player prop game, by the way. He's allowed a 349 average, 1,091 OPS to the Mets. So Soroka has not done well against the Mets. Pete Alonso, 4 for 12 with a home run and 2 walks off him. Marte is 2 for 3 with a home run off him. Soto, 6 for 10 with 2 home runs and 4 walks off him. So if you want player props, I always recommend hits plus runs plus RBIs, because then if you get a walk mixed in there, you could still potentially get a run or an RBI out of that. Whereas total bases, it erases the at-bat completely. So that's the way that I like to do it. I like to find matchups like this where you can see that a guy has done really well against that pitcher in the past. So you could look for player props there. Looks like it's not the best matchup for Soroka here, and he is certainly at a disadvantage against Senga, who has been quite good for the Mets this year with a 1.59 ERA and 1.18 whip. His problem is his wildness. He does walk too many guys, but he is very difficult to hit for the most part and does rack up a lot of strikeouts. He just racks up a ton of walks, so he needs to keep that in check. He's been good over the last couple outings, though, with a 13-4 strikeout-walk ratio, going at least 6 in the last 2, but they were both against Colorado. One was at Coors Field, which is not an easy pitching environment, but still Colorado's offense sucks. The Mets have won 4 of his last 5 outings, or 5 of his last 6, I guess. So the Mets have been good behind him. He's set them up for a bunch of wins, really, because he pitches quite effectively for the most part. And up against Washington, decent numbers overall, and 38 at bats, 237 average, but a somewhat high 751 OPS because he has 9 walks to 7 strikeouts against them. So again, the walks are a little bit of a concern for Senga. So you do have to worry about that. You might have to worry about the spot a little bit for the Mets. I think the Mets are just laying way too much of a price here. They're up from minus 240 to down from minus 240 to minus 200, excuse me. But 68% of the tickets and 80% of the cash. So it looks like the money has kind of started to come in on the Mets side. Yes, they have a huge starting pitching edge, I would say, and they do have a bullpen edge, and they have the better offense. They do have all the edges here, but except for the situation. In this situation, I'm not really loving it as far as coming off shutting out Washington yesterday. I worry about it a little bit, so it's a stay away from me. Definitely a big price to lay on the Mets there. Texas at Minnesota. Minnesota got absolutely shelled in the first game where they had to use Simeon Woods-Richardson when they were undecided on who their pitcher was going to be for a while. Things kind of returned to normal yesterday with Minnesota winning in the bounce-back spot 6-2. Festa pitched pretty well in the game yesterday. Leiter did not pitch anywhere near as well as I thought he would. We do still have two pretty good bullpens in this game, but their rest situation is a little bit more concerning after yesterday, especially on the Texas side. They had to use a bit more of their bullpen. Minnesota didn't, I think, use some of their better relievers yesterday in that win. Today we got Patrick Corbin pitching for Texas, and he continues to defy expectations with a 3.52 ERA and 1.17 whip. He's actually in the territory where I actually have to say his numbers are actually good this year, and his whip is not even too high anymore. I don't even understand it because he looked like he was on the verge of being out of baseball, and now all of a sudden he's pitching really well. It seems like Texas's pitching coaches are very, very good. Corbin has been good for a while now, even though he's not ratcheting up like his strikeout rate or anything. He's not a strikeout guy. His strikeout rate is not high at all, but I mean, he's keeping the walks down a bit, and he's certainly not allowing a lot of runs, as all season he has not allowed more than 3 earned runs in a single start, which is really, really crazy to me. He's been pretty consistent and pretty effective. Been a little bit less effective on the road with a 3.93 ERA, but that's still pretty good. Against Minnesota, he has decent numbers in 57 at-bats, 211 average allowed, but a 784 OPS. He has a lot of strikeouts, actually 24, although 10 of them are Bader. But he's allowed 4 home runs, which is kind of where the concern comes in. Bader does have one of them, but he does pretty much dominate him otherwise with 10 strikeouts. The guy that gives him the most trouble pretty much is Buxton, who's 2 for 6 off him with 2 home runs. But you can kind of pitch around one guy, so I'm not really that concerned about Corbin. It seems like he might be set up for a decent performance here against a Minnesota offense that's not that good. Bailey Ober's pitching for Minnesota, and I still like this guy. I think he's pretty effective. 3.78 ERA, 1.3 whip is definitely too high for my liking, but he's been pretty good throughout the course of the whole year, man. I mean, since that one bad start to open the season, he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start either, even though he's had some shortened starts, which is a little bit of a concern. His strikeout rate is kind of low, which is a little bit concerning as well, but he doesn't walk a whole lot of guys. He does allow too many hits, though, which has kind of been the issue this year. He's allowed too many hits. He's got to keep that down. He's been better at home than on the road with a 3.08 home ERA, which is pretty good. His numbers against Texas, though, not great. In 49 at-bats, 286 average allowed, 891 OPS, and he's allowed 4 home runs. Semien absolutely destroys him. 7 for 13 with a double and 2 home runs and a walk. No strikeouts. And Garcia is 3 for 6 off him with an RBI and a strikeout. So those two guys, player props, especially Semien, looks like great player prop potential there. So even though both pitchers have been consistent throughout the season and pretty effective, it kind of starts looking like an under game, but I don't really think I want to do it because even though Ober does pitch pretty well at home, Corbin's just not that bad either way, but I worry about the bullpen rest situation. You do still have 2 offenses that aren't that good here, though, and the bullpens are okay, even though they're, the bullpens are fairly good, to be honest. They're just not totally rested here. So, I mean, it looks kind of like an under-ish type of game, but there are definitely some concerns, especially with some of looking at the specific matchups there, especially on the Ober side. So I worry about that. We see 55% of tickets on the under, but 51% of the cash on the over. So a little bit more of the cash on the over. The total's kind of just sitting at 8 juice to the under. Minnesota down from minus 160 to minus 159, 71% of tickets, 73% of the cash. Very difficult to read into the market here for the most part. I mean, the numbers don't jump out at me at all as far as the market is concerned either. It looks like Minnesota's a fairly public side in that game, though. So it might make sense to fade Minnesota. I think maybe Corbin does have a little bit of the upper hand there. You do have to worry a little bit about Texas's bullpen rest situation, but maybe not a whole lot. San Francisco's at Colorado. San Francisco is looking at a sweep here as well. They've done well. Yesterday was finally a San Francisco game with a ton of scoring. After yesterday's, or the game before that, the over that happened wasn't really, it didn't really tell the whole story, as it looked like it was going to be another under game, and San Francisco scored 4 runs in the 9th inning on Tuesday. Yesterday, though, they put up a ton of runs, But now San Francisco is on the verge of a sweep, and they have a big series starting tomorrow against the Dodgers. So this is a look-ahead spot for San Francisco. So there is a little bit of a concern with the spot for San Francisco here, where Colorado might actually show up focused here. But you're kind of jumping in front of a train here if you like Colorado. You're going to have to deal with how bad Colorado is as a team, which is factored into the line at least. But San Francisco's also won 7 games in a row. So they're on a roll right now. Again, this isn't a great spot for San Francisco. And they do have one of their weaker starters going here with Hayden Birdsong. 2.55 ERA, 1.28 whip. His whip is definitely a bit too high. He's limited the damage for sure, though. He's been used effectively. Again, Giants actually, kind of like Texas, they seem to have really good pitching coaching and good management of their pitching, but their offense just isn't that good. Birdsong is a little bit worse on the road with a 3.71 road ERA, so not as good on the road. He comes in and he kind of just goes at most 5 innings for the most part, and they try to just use him as much as he's effective, and then they kind of take him out of the game. San Francisco has won 3 of his last 4 outings that he's pitched. He's been mediocre, though, and I worry a little bit because his last start he had 5 walks against Atlanta, which is a bit of a concern. He's been inefficient with his pitches for sure. He's thrown way too many pitches. So I think maybe he's on a pitch count as well, and he's just not going deep into games. He's just running his pitch count way up, which is a little bit of a concern as well. Against Colorado, though, he has been good in the past. They're 0 for 17 off him with 8 strikeouts and 3 walks, so they have no hits off of him ever. 0 average and 150 OPS. The guy's in Colorado's current lineup, I should say. So Birdsong does have really good numbers against them in his career, and that strikeout rate against them is really high, too. But he has faced Colorado once this year, and it was only a 2-inning obviously shutout performance there. He actually allowed a hit, but whoever got that hit is actually apparently not in Colorado's lineup right now. But you can't take away that much from a 2-inning outing. But Birdsong has actually been effective against Colorado when he has pitched against them. We'll see what he does in Coors Field. I didn't go back and look at his history in Coors Field just because I decided to not play this game. Senzatella is pitching for Colorado, and he's been awful. 6.68 ERA, 1.97 whip, awful stuff. His numbers are actually slightly better at home. So figure that out if you want. Try to figure that out. He's actually coming off a shutout performance, but it was a 4-inning performance. It was against the Mets, which is good, but he threw way too many pitches in 4 innings, and he walked 4 guys, so he kind of got away with not pitching that well. He's not in good form, man. Even though he didn't allow any runs in that outing, he is definitely not in good form. Colorado has lost every start that he's made except for the first start of the season where he got extremely lucky. He put 11 men on base and somehow didn't allow any runs against Tampa. And then his other win was an actually fairly solid start against Washington. And other than that, or the other game that they won, that was his one win on the season. The other game that Colorado won, they've lost all of his other starts. It's just not good for him. His numbers against the Giants aren't great either. In 40 at-bats, 5 walks to only 2 strikeouts, 275 average, 781 OPS. So I don't trust Senzatella. I can't jump in on the Colorado side with him pitching. So this is a stay away as well. San Francisco's not in a great spot, though. They're down from minus 218 to minus 195. So again, you're having to pay a huge price to play the Giants against Colorado as well. 70% of tickets, 75% of the cash coming in on the Giants. But I think the actual money might actually not be on the Giants here, because I just don't see a reason to lay a price like that on the Giants. Of course, it's a huge total in Colorado as well at 11, which usually you do want to try to go over those totals. But with San Francisco being an under machine and not really having that great an offense, that might counteract how bad Senzatella is a little bit. And Birdsong might actually put together a decent performance. Remains to be seen, man. Detroit at Baltimore. Of course, Detroit's probably going to be in a little bit of an angry mood after losing 10-1 yesterday against Baltimore. And Baltimore actually, I think, had more bullpen usage yesterday in the game. Let me see. Only like slightly, maybe not even. Baltimore, they used 3 relievers, but none of them threw more than 9 pitches. So I might be wrong, so maybe not. So if Baltimore wanted to use those guys they used yesterday, who are actually some of their better relief pitchers, they might still be available again coming into today. This was a good handicap by me yesterday. I got the game right. It was the pitching matchup was in favor of Eflin indeed yesterday, and the Orioles did score late as well. which was good for my play there. Now, Detroit didn't use any of their best relief pitchers yesterday, though, really. So Detroit's bullpen, they have their best arms available this time, so they might have a little bit of a bullpen edge. And they're probably not going to have to use much of their bullpen because Skubal is pitching. And you kind of know what you're going to get out of Skubal for the most part. He is almost never not good. 2.16 ERA, 0.82 whip on the season. Headed for a potential Cy Young here. He is a little bit easier to hit on the road, I guess, with a 2.72 road ERA. He's more dominant at home, but either way you look at it, he's been really, really good. He had 2 shutout performances in a row, going 9 and 7 innings, and then allowed 1 run in his last outing, 7 2/3 against the Chicago Cubs, who are a good hitting team. He didn't even walk anybody in 3 straight starts either, with a 26-0 strikeout walk ratio. He's just pitching insane. In the month of May, he had a 59-2 strikeout walk ratio. I mean, I don't think I have to go into it any further, but his strikeout walk ratio on the entire season is 105-7. I mean, it's completely insane how good this guy is. It's ridiculous. So is he going to pitch well? Yeah, probably. Against the Orioles, they have 48 at-bats against him. He has a 19-3 strikeout walk ratio against him, 188 average allowed, and 485 OPS. So yeah, he also pretty much dominates the Orioles. So I'm expecting Skubal to turn in another good performance here. He's obviously the way better pitcher up against Dean Kremer, who's a guy that I don't like, and I love to make fun of him on the show. 4.98 ERA, 1.41 whip. Not good numbers. Didn't have a great outing last time up, but we can give him maybe a little bit of a break for it because it was at that A's stadium where the hitting is really good at that stadium always. He did come off 2 decent performances in the previous 2 outings. One was against the White Sox, though, so I don't know. But his strikeout walk ratio has actually been okay over those starts, 13-3 over the last 3 starts. I mean, that's not too bad. So I would say he's in mediocre form right now would be my take on that. He has been definitely better at home, though, with a 2.25 home ERA, so he has been better at home. Against Detroit, his numbers are mediocre and 55 at-bats. 12-6 strikeout walk ratio isn't that great, but a 273 average, 708 OPS. So, man, I mean, this game, to me, it seems like it's an under game, man. I mean, that's probably the best way to look at this game. I don't think you want to lay a price like this on Detroit, even though they do have the starting pitching edge. They're up from -170 to -182. 72% of tickets, 86% of the cash coming in on Detroit. So it does look like actual money is coming in on Detroit. Liking that pitching matchup, I guess. I think you have to pay too much to get them, though, for Skubal there. So I think the under might be the better way to look, even though the total flipped from 8 juice to the under to 8 juice to the over. We have 58% of the tickets on the over, but 73% of the cash on the under. So I think the real money's coming in on the under. I think Kremer, he's in okay form. He's not terrible against Detroit. Baltimore, both relief staffs are actually not in terrible form, as Baltimore didn't use any of the relief pitchers they used yesterday for a lot of pitches, so they might be available again. Detroit's best relievers are pretty much available here. Detroit's bullpen is good. I know Baltimore's isn't, but it might be enough for a full game under in this one, man. That might be the way that I would lean here. First 5 under might be an okay way to look, too. If you think Kremer, because he is better at home, he is okay against Detroit, maybe it'll wind up being an under type of game early on in the game as well. So that's probably the way I would lean. John, what's up, man? Yeah, it is Skubal Day. Thanks for hanging out, man. People celebrate that around the league, I think. He definitely should win the Cy Young, and he probably will because he's on the best team. I mean, there are some other guys that are pitching almost as well as he is, like Garrett Crochet, but he is on the Boston Red Sox, so he can't get any wins because they suck. So it is probably going to be Skubal for the AL Cy Young. Yankees are at Kansas City. The Yankees are also looking for a sweep here, I believe, winning fairly easily for the most part in both of these games against a Royals team that really cannot hit. The Yankees do have a big series starting tomorrow at Fenway Park, and it's going to be a revenge series for the Yankees because the Red Sox just took 2 out of 3 from them in Yankee Stadium right before this Kansas City series. So this is a look-ahead spot for the Yankees here, man. So it's not the greatest spot for the Yankees. They might overlook a team they just beat twice, not really care about Kansas City that much. Looking ahead to Boston potentially here. Will Warren is going for the Yankees. Mixed bag from Warren for the most part. 5.34 ERA, 1.41 whip. Those are not good numbers. His strikeout rate has been fairly decent as of late, though. He only had one appearance recently, that really bad start against the Dodgers, where he allowed he allowed a lot of walks there. He issued a lot of walks, and he did not strike out a lot of guys in that one. His strikeout rate it went back up against the Red Sox, but he did walk 4 guys and gave up 4 runs against the Red Sox. So he actually didn't have a good outing against the Red Sox there, even though the Yankees did win that game. So Warren, I would say he's not really in good form right now, and he is actually really bad on the road, a 6.54 road ERA. So that's not good. The one thing that he does have going for him is he's pitching against a bad offense in the Royals, and it's an offense that has never seen him before. So Warren, a guy that does have good strikeout stuff, could be an issue for the Royals just because they've never seen him before. That is a little bit of an extra edge to Warren. And if it wasn't for that, I might be looking to make a play on Kansas City here, man, because it is not a good spot for the Yankees, in my opinion. The market read also doesn't look like it's on Kansas City, though, so that's kind of keeping me away as well. Seth Lugo is pitching for Kansas City. He has pretty good numbers again. 3.46 ERA, 1.17 whip. He came back from injury 2 starts ago. He had a rough start against Detroit, but he's trending in the right direction. He had a better start his last time out, but it was against a bad White Sox lineup. His team lost the game still. I mean, it's partially because his team can't score, though, and the bullpen was actually really bad behind Lugo in that game. Lugo is decent, though, and he is pretty good at home. 3.1 ERA at home. That's not bad. His numbers against the Yankees are okay, and 98 at-bats, a nice 22-6 strikeout walk ratio. That's pretty good. 245 average allowed is good, but 748 OPS because he has allowed 7 home runs to them. So the long ball has been a problem for Will Warren, for Seth Lugo against the Yankees. A couple of guys for player props here. Goldschmidt, 8 for 14 with 2 home runs and 2 walks and 3 strikeouts off him, so he's done well. LeMahieu was 6 for 13 with 3 RBIs off him, so those 2 guys are the guys that hit Lugo the best. My lean is still to the Kansas City side, though, because, again, I don't think it's a good spot for the Yankees here. Lugo, I mean, you at least know what you're going to get out of him, whereas Warren is a complete, I think, crapshoot in this game, but Warren at least does have the edge again where he's facing a bad offense, and they've never seen him before, so he does have a little bit of an edge in that regard. Kansas City probably does have the better bullpen, but the usage I don't think was that extreme for either team in these games so far, so I don't know. So Kansas City does probably still have the bullpen edge in the game, but obviously the Yankees have a big hitting edge. Yankees up from minus 135 to minus 147, so the money has come in on the Yankees. 61% of the cash on them, 53% of tickets on Kansas City. That doesn't make sense to me, though. Why would Kansas City be public unless you really think the public is doing it just because it's Seth Lugo against Will Warren? I don't really think that's enough for the public to be on Kansas City here. I think they'll look at the fact that the Yankees won the last 2 games easily. The Yankees are the Yankees. So I don't buy that the Yankees are not the public side here. That's kind of the issue that I have with trying to gauge what's going on in the market here. The Yankees, you always have to pay too much of a price for them, though. They probably should not be this much of a favorite on the road in a look-ahead spot like this with revenge against the Red Sox coming up. So I would still lean to Kansas City in that one, getting a decent underdog price there. That would be the way that I would lean. Next up is going to be the play that I have here, which I haven't entered it. Oh, no, I did. I entered it in. Here it is. St. Louis, Milwaukee. We're going to go first 5 innings under the total. Although to get this to the number of 4 here, you do have to pay a little bit for it at minus 125. I don't love going under 3.5, man. That's kind of the problem. 4 is kind of my threshold with these first 5 inning unders. So I think getting that extra half run is worth paying up to about this price for it. But this is what I'm going to do because it's St. Louis and Milwaukee, and I don't love either bullpen here. Milwaukee's bullpen is bad, so I don't want to deal with the bullpens here. Milwaukee is coming off a series against Atlanta where they actually lost the series. They are staying at home. They didn't use really any of their good relief pitchers yesterday, though, so their bullpen is actually in okay shape. So if you do want to go full game under the 8 or whatever it is, 8.5, I don't hate that either. It looks like it's actually probably 8 because it says 7.5 on ESPN here. I think it's actually 8. So if you want to go under that number here, the full game, I don't hate it. but I think it's a little bit of a concern just because Milwaukee's bullpen isn't good. St. Louis is starting a road trip coming off a bad series where they got swept by Toronto at home. So I think it's probably a good thing for St. Louis to just get away from home after you got swept at home. Forget about it. Go on the road. St. Louis didn't really use that much of their bullpen either. They used innings eaters after Liberatore got his pitch count too high and exited the game fairly early, but they kind of saved their bullpen there. So actually, if you do want to go full game under, I don't hate it. I'm actually considering switching it to a full game under. We do see it's still at 8, but it's heavily juiced on the under 8 now. So I think you would have to go under 7.5 on the full game if you do want to do that. So maybe first 5 innings is still the way to go just because Milwaukee's bullpen is still bad. 77% of tickets are on the over, but only 52% of the cash. So the money is coming in on the over. The money is also coming in at St. Louis. And I don't know if I totally agree with the St. Louis side, even though, like I said, it is a decent spot for them to start a road trip. It is a focus spot. They're up from -125 to -135, though. So St. Louis is laying a road price here. 75% of the cash on them. 51% of tickets on Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee has the better offense. St. Louis has the somewhat better bullpen. So I think it's kind of a wash. And as you'll see in a minute, I like the starting pitching matchup for an under here. So I don't really think that St. Louis, even though they have their best starter on the mound here, Sonny Gray, I like him, which of course is going to lead into why I want to play the under here, or under first 5 innings. I just don't think St. Louis should be laying this much of a price here up against a guy who I think is being disrespected in the market here in Milwaukee's starter here, and I'm going to talk about him in a second. Sonny Gray is pitching for St. Louis, and you kind of know what you're going to get out of him usually, although he can have some bad outings mixed in there, but you have to kind of identify when is he going to be the Gray that you expect. 3.35 ERA, 1.13 whip on the season, obviously good numbers. He is in good form right now. Alternating between 10 and 5 strikeouts in his last 4 outings, 2 straight shutout outings, going at least 6 1/3. St. Louis, probably part of the reason why the money's coming in on them is that they've won 6 straight Sonny Gray starts, including one where he allowed 7 runs against Philadelphia, which is just ridiculous. Somehow, I guess Nola got completely rocked in that game, because that's just crazy that you would win even in a game where Sonny Gray is awful. But speaking of that game is skewing Sonny Gray's road statistics. So he has a 4.57 road ERA, which is bad. He's not as good on the road, but the thing is that one start at Philadelphia is completely skewing his road numbers because his other starts, 5-inning, 1-run performance against Pittsburgh, that's fine. 6-inning, 3-run performance against the Mets where he had 6 strikeouts. That's not a bad outing either. And his most recent road start at Texas, he dominated them. 7 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts, 4 hits. I know Texas's offense is obviously weaker than Milwaukee's offense, but still, Gray's in really good form right now. His road stats aren't as bad as they look because of that one bad outing again against who did I say it was against again? Against Philadelphia. And Philadelphia's a good offense, probably even better than Milwaukee's. Up against Milwaukee, Gray's numbers are mediocre in 108 at-bats. He has 30 strikeouts and 8 walks, so that ratio is pretty good. 250 average allowed is pretty good. The OPS is high, 774, but if you look at what's gone on here, it's really been one guy that's done most of the damage against him. Although Chorio's 3 for 8 with 2 doubles, that's fairly good for him. 4 strikeouts, though, and 1 RBI. The guy that's the most concerning is Rhys Hoskins, is 5 for 18 off him with 2 doubles and a home run, but 6 strikeouts and no walks. So the strikeout-walk ratio is not that bad either. So if Sonny Gray is able to pitch kind of through these couple of guys that do damage against him, I think he'll be able to do well. And Yelich has 2 triples off him, 6 for 24, 1 home run, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts. But it's only a 250 average. So although when he gets hits, he does hit him hard. But I think Gray might do okay and be able to pitch through this lineup a couple of times here. And then the other reason why I like the under here in first 5 innings is Jacob Misiorowski is pitching for Milwaukee. Who is this guy? Well, he is a young guy, starting pitcher here. Now, he's only 23 years old. He is considered by many to be the top prospect in Milwaukee's organization. They weren't sure if he was going to be more of a relief pitcher or a starting pitcher, but he is 6'7", which I usually like guys that are that tall as pitchers, because usually that is kind of an intimidation factor. And it usually means that their velocity is usually higher because they're a bigger, stronger guy. Misiorowski, you want to talk about velocity? He is like on the regular, he is throwing 103 mile an hour fastballs in the minor leagues as it stands right now. Even when he's gone like 5 innings into a game, he's still throwing over 100 miles an hour regularly, and he actually could top out in like the mid to high 100s. It's insane how fast his fastball is. He has one of the fastest fastballs out there right now. He only really has a 3-pitch arsenal, but I guess his slider is really good as well and has really like crazy movement on it, but it's also closer to a cutter because he throws so hard that his slider is in the low 90s velocity-wise. And he does have a curveball that he throws in the 80s that I guess has good movement on it as well. He has a changeup that I guess he uses intermittently that's kind of his weakest pitch. He doesn't really use it, but I guess his mix is pretty good. He's been pretty good in the minors, man. He has a ridiculously high strikeout rate. Over the course of his minor league career, it was something like 300-something strikeouts in like 200 innings or something like that. So a really, really high strikeout rate. It is continuing in AAA this season. He has like a 2-something ERA in AAA, a 1.09 whip in AAA this year. So that's good because one of the concerns with him is he's completely wild. So the walks have been a concern for him, which you tend to see that a lot with guys that throw this hard. But it seems like in AAA, his walk rate is either just not that high or, well, I actually looked at it. He has like 80-something strikeouts in AAA this year and 30 or so walks. So it is a decently high walk number, but he also is allowing very few hits. So his whip is really, really low as well. He's very difficult to hit. So I like how he profiles, man. He obviously has velocity and has the stuff to pitch at a major league level. And you know that when you have guys with talent like that, with stuff like that, when they come in and they pitch against an offense that has never seen them before in the majors, you know I like to try to find a way to play on that pitcher, and that is what I'm going to do here. So I like the starting pitching matchup here for the under in the first 5 innings for all those reasons. Again, I think hitters are at a little bit of a disadvantage when they're facing a pitcher they've never seen before. So I think that is the way to play this game here. Let's watch Misiorowski here, man, and see what he can do, because I think he's going to be a guy that you really want to watch this guy pitch. I mean, he's not going to be Paul Skeens or anything like that, I would not think, but he just has such a ridiculous fastball that I think it's going to be fun to watch him out there. Anthony, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Anthony Manzano, yes, I love the Italian names, man, being a fellow Italian. Nate, what's up, my man? Nate usually comes in and tries to guess my Italian name. I don't think he's done it yet, though. Thank you, man. Thanks for the sub. Xerox, good to see you. Any props? I usually just talk about hitter props. Have your friend taken terms of either strikeouts or innings for a pitcher? Yeah. I mean, those are good ways to look, too. So basically, I haven't really talked about that on the show, but there are ways to make a good amount of money. I don't really play props, and maybe I should, but I'm more of like MLB. I do all like sides and totals basically, and pretty much in all the other sports I'm mostly like sides and like intermittent totals. Don't do a whole lot with props, but yeah, in baseball the strikeout props are good props, which is basically I think what you're saying, or actually yeah, so what you're saying is basically the amount of strikeouts a pitcher is going to get in an outing, I assume is what you're talking about. So I think you could look at that for sure. Like if you look at I would look at what a pitcher's history is, like I'm doing here, against that specific lineup. And if they have a particularly high or low strikeout rate against those specific hitters, you can use that to your advantage maybe and see what their strikeout number is. And if the number is like, you know, basically just line based on what the pitcher usually does strikeout-wise, if you think that they're going to do better or worse depending on that specific lineup, you can look at it that way. Or if you think they're not going to last in a particular game, you have to take that into account too. So basically, if they do poorly against a specific lineup, it's going to kind of make sense to go under their strikeout number, maybe. If they do poorly and they don't have a high strikeout rate, basically. But I think the way that I prefer probably on the pitcher props is to look at the other thing that you're saying here, the innings prop, which is, I think what you're talking about is how many innings is the pitcher going to last in a particular game? Or really, it's not really an innings prop. It's an outs recorded prop is usually what you're looking at. And I like that. That's a good way to look to an outs recorded prop. So you can look and see, does this pitcher do well against this particular lineup? How long are they lasting, like, on average in games and whatever? And you can look at that outs recorded prop and say, I think this pitcher is going to have either more or fewer than that number of outs recorded. So the number of outs recorded, you just divide it by 3 to visualize it in the number of innings, right? So like 5 innings would be 15 outs recorded. So usually you're going to see a lot of guys have, numbers in that range, somewhere between like 15 and 18. 18 would be they finish 6 innings. So if you think the pitcher is going to last either longer than that or less than that, you play either over or under the amount of outs recorded. So that's what you're talking about. Again, I would do it based on what their specific matchup numbers are for the most part, looking at those props. And then I don't like home run props. Like the hitter home run props, you never get good enough odds, man, because even the best home run hitter in baseball, like Ohtani, even he is only going to hit a home run like every couple of games or so for the most part, or every few games. So you never get good enough odds. Like on Ohtani, everybody knows who he is. Like you're always going to be only getting like probably about like 2 to 1 at best. Like probably not even that good on his home run props. So you never get good enough odds on the home run props. I think they're sucker bets. So that's why I recommend hits plus runs plus RBIs is the way that I recommend playing hitter props. If you see that a hitter like does a ton of damage against a specific pitcher, that's the way I would go. Look at their hits plus runs plus RBIs and look to go over it. Sometimes you have to go over 2, 2.5 is kind of a high number. 1.5 is a nice number to get on some of those, some sneaky plays on like less heralded hitters that do really well against a specific pitcher. And the reason I like that better than total bases is because if your hitter walks, that is completely discounted from the total bases, so you lose an entire at bat. Whereas at least with a walk, there's a potential of getting a run scored with him because he gets on base, or he might walk with the bases loaded, so it might be an RBI as well. So if that all makes sense, that's the way that I look at player props in baseball. Corey Perry in the Stanley Cup Finals, first period shot on goals at plus 100. I don't hate that, to be honest. I mean, he's taking a lot of shots, so yeah. I mean, basically they're telling you it's like not even a toss-up. They're lining him as an underdog there. I would have to look at what his stats are, but typically you're going to see about what you think, like maybe 10 or so shots, let's say, maybe for Edmonton in one period or whatever in the first period. What are the chances that he's going to be one of those shots? I mean, probably fairly decent. Scott, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Yep, Todolfo Rigatoni. That is definitely my name. My Italian name is actually on my mom's side. It was her mother, so the Italian name is erased from my family. I did not. I don't have the Italian name, but it was there in the lineage. How does Vegas determine a projection for rookie starter? A hitter when it comes to a prop because they've never faced a team. I don't really know what they do with the hitter, to be honest. I didn't really look at, like, because the Red Sox have had some highly touted prospects come up within the last couple of weeks with Mayer and Roman just came up, and I didn't even look at what their hitter props were, but I think if the hitter has like way too much hype behind them, the hitters usually get more hype, and the hitter, if there's too much hype behind them, you're probably not going to get that much value playing their hitting props, and I would completely ignore it, to be honest, just because there's no history there. So I just don't really see there being that much value, but maybe some value playing the under in their hitter props, because if they're expected to do really well right out of the gate, they might not do that right out of the gate. They have to face major league pitching, so they might not do as well in the first game. So for a hitter, I think their first few at bats, I would probably be looking for them to not do as well. And they're facing, pitchers they haven't really seen before necessarily, so that's coming into play as well. So I think that's probably the way that I would look at a hitter. For a pitcher, it's kind of the opposite, like I said. But as far as so I think the pitcher has an edge early on if they're a good pitcher, and because the hitters haven't seen them before for the most part. So I think it's an advantage to the pitcher. But what you're asking is like how do those pitchers get lined? I think the pitchers, you get value on those pitchers, I think, for the most part. In the odds, like I said, I think St. Louis might probably be too heavy of favorite in that game, because I think that those pitchers people really don't know who these pitchers are, man. I mean, nobody's paying attention to, who's the best prospect in the Brewers organization, unless you're like a hardcore Brewers fan. People don't know who these guys are. People didn't know who Paul Skeens was really when he entered the league either, really, right? So it takes a little while, and if that pitcher starts really doing well in the majors, then you stop getting value on them. But when the pitcher's first coming into the majors and you think they're going to be really good, you get some value on them out of the gate, in my opinion, and then later on you won't get value on them anymore when they start being good. But yeah, even Paul Skeens, like I said, even though if people follow college baseball, they know he was really, really good at LSU, but people don't follow college baseball either. So people didn't know who Skeens was, even though he has like a hot, like famous model for a wife, or girlfriend, whatever, fiance, maybe, whatever it is, whatever she is, Olivia Dunn or whatever. Definitely hot. Paul Skeens has everything going for him, man. He's living the life. But people still didn't know who he was until he entered the majors. So, again, I think you do get value on these pitchers like this. That's right. Yeah, Tortorelli, Panzanella. Charles, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I mean, you saw Perry. That's why they call him Scory Perry. Not just because he bangs a lot of women, I guess, but because he takes a lot of shots, and you're right, he does post up right in front of the net. That's what he did when he got that like kind of miracle goal to tie the game the other night, and when they still wound up losing the game. But yeah, you're right. They also they don't have Hyman. They have a broken Hyman. You're right. As Florida has been kind of fucking them a little bit as of late. You are correct about that. I didn't know about Nugent Hopkins. I don't even know who that is. But you're right. Hyman is injured, I believe. I don't pay too much attention to the personnel in hockey, but yeah. Hinchy, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Oh, it's Spain? What? It's Spanish? Manzano? Oh, man, it sounds so Italian. Is it both, though? I mean, I'm Italian, so I usually recognize an Italian name pretty quick. It sounds like mangiano. It sounds like it means eat, basically. Man, all right. Manzano. Is it Manzano, then? I don't know, but yeah, it sounds... I think it could be... There could be some Manzanos in Italy, man. I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, thanks, guys, for hanging out for the chat here. Now that Tower Gang is gone, maybe everybody's going to be looking at my... looking at Better Off Dead to get their fix of me. All right, let's finish this off. We have Pittsburgh and the Chicago Cubs here. I finished the breakdown on St. Louis and Milwaukee, right? Under first 5 innings is what I like in that game. I don't hate the under in the full game either, though. Pittsburgh at the Cubs. The Cubs are returning home from a road trip, and you know I always point out that teams returning home from road trips tend to not be in the greatest spot. The Cubs have been away from home for a while. They went to Washington, Detroit, and Philadelphia, so they've been on the road for 3 starts, so it's a fairly long road trip for them. Not really geographically, but time-wise, so they are coming back home. They're playing a team they're probably not going to be totally focused for in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh is, of course, the dregs of the NL Central, and the Cubs have a nice padding in the NL Central right now here, which, by the way, St. Louis and Milwaukee, that's a big series, so the teams are both going to show up in that series because they are fighting each other in the NL Central, by the way. I forgot to point that out. So both teams should be focused in that game for that reason. Cubs may not be because, again, they're returning home, which a lot of times is a distraction spot. They've actually lost 3 of their last 4 games, so a lot of people will have the tendency to think, oh, well, that team's going to bounce back now that they're back at home, right? But I don't see it that way in these daily sports like this. When a team returns back home, they have to get back to family life. They have stuff that wasn't getting done when they were gone. That tends to be a distraction. And again, they're facing a very bad Pittsburgh team. Although Pittsburgh's actually been playing pretty well as of late. But still, the Cubs may not totally focus on Pittsburgh here, man. They're not facing Paul Skeens today either. So why would you focus on Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh, quietly, man, you can see it right here. They've won 5 out of the last 6 games. I know a couple of the wins were against Miami, and Miami sucks, but they swept Philadelphia. Maybe Philadelphia just was not paying attention to Pittsburgh, man, and Pittsburgh caught them off guard. I don't know. But Pittsburgh actually did better against Philadelphia than the Cubs did, which is kind of hilarious. Andrew Heaney is on the mound for Pittsburgh today. He's been decent for them this year. 3.24 ERA, 1.15 whip. He left his last outing with a leg cramp, but he has not missed an outing, so it seems like he's fine. And he did go 6 innings in that game, which looks like he basically completed his start, but he only threw 73 pitches. So I think they were going to actually leave him in longer in that start, but he had a leg cramp, so he left. He pitched well in that game against Philadelphia, man. A tough lineup to face. I think he actually has a good history against Philadelphia, if I remember correctly. He went 6 innings, giving up 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, no walks. Nice performance from him, and he only went 73 pitches. So I think even though because he exited early, the leg cramp and whatever, because he's pitching today, I think the leg is a non-issue probably, and I think he gets a little bit of extra rest because they didn't overextend him in that game where they were probably going to leave him in longer because he was pitching really efficiently with his pitches. So I think that's going to help him in this start, actually. I think he's going to be a little bit more rested here. He is a little bit worse on the road, 3.58 ERA this year, which is still pretty good, though, for a road ERA. Against the Cubs, his numbers are all over the place, though. It's really hard to gauge his numbers against the Cubs. In 55 at-bats, he's held them to a very low 218 average, but they have a very high 904 OPS off him because he has a horrific strikeout walk rate against them, which worries me. 5 strikeouts and 12 walks. That is not good, but 8 walks against Tucker, which kind of tells you that he was probably pitching around Tucker quite a bit. So maybe you don't have to be as worried about the walk rate there, but he has also allowed 5 home runs to them. One of them is Tucker, but that was Tucker's only hit. Tucker's 1 for 15 off him otherwise. So it does look like he does handle Tucker effectively. The most damage has been done by Turner, who's 5 for 19 off him, though. So not even a really good batting average, but 5 for 19, 2 home runs, and 2 walks off him. So maybe Heaney, you could probably lean towards he might do okay in this game, I would say, because he's in decent form right now. And overall, I think the numbers are actually not terrible against Pittsburgh. Excuse me. Why do I keep doing that? He is on Pittsburgh against the Cubs. The Cubs. The Cubs have Jameson Ty on pitching. He's having a good season. 3.54 ERA, 0.98 whip. I kind of like him, by the way, because he almost looks a little bit syndromic on the mound there. So he looks like one of my guys, man, like a fellow retard or whatever. Are we allowed to say that there? Sorry, Jameson. I still like you, baby. It makes me like you even more, man. I like Jameson Taillon, man, as far as how he's been pitching right now. Didn't like him when he was on the Yankees because I am a Yankee hater as a Red Sox fan. But I like him, and I like the way he's been pitching as of late, man. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs going all the way back through May 14th. He's in pretty decent form right now. A decent strikeout rate over the last bunch of starts for the most part. 25-5 strikeout walk ratio in May was good. 3.68 ERA in May was good. In June, he's been decent. 7-2 strikeout walk ratio. 2.03 ERA. Pitching pretty effectively. His last outing at Detroit, which is not really that easy to get through, and he had 7 innings. 1 run. He went 7 innings, allowing 1 run, 5 strikeouts, no walks. So had a good outing there against a tough team to face in their home stadium. So good for Jameson. Against Pittsburgh, he has pretty good numbers as well. 93 at-bats, 21-6 strikeout walk ratio, 247 average allowed, 659 OPS. So the way that I would look at this game, I do think that the Cubs, you're paying too much of a price for the Cubs here in a return home spot. So it's a bad situation. Don't love the Cubs. They're very public with 94% of tickets, only 92% of the cash. They're laying up from minus 190 to minus 193 now, which, again, I think is too much of a price to lay on the Cubs. So I wouldn't do that. My preference in this game would be the under, based on that pitching matchup as I just described. I actually think the under is the way to go here. You do worry about the bullpens a bit, though, because Cubs, they started off the season with not a good bullpen, although the bullpen has actually turned it around and been good since then. So Cubs bullpen, I think, is less worrisome because they did use Pomerantz in relief yesterday, so they pretty much saved their pen after Brown didn't have a good outing yesterday. But the Cubs' better relievers are available here, so I actually think the bullpen situation is not that bad for the Cubs. Pirates just played against Miami. Let's see here. They use some of their best relievers, though, so that's maybe kind of an issue for the Pirates. So their bullpen is not in the greatest position here because they did use a bunch of their relief pitchers to finish the game against Miami. Pirates overall are in a focused spot, though, man. Like when you're on a nice roll like the Pirates are, I forgot to mention their situation here. When you come off of that and you start a road trip, especially against the team that has like the best record in your entire league, you're going to be focused to face that team, and they're the first place team in your division. So it is a focus spot for Pittsburgh. So I forgot to point that out. So I would probably lean Pittsburgh in the first 5 innings on the money line because I just don't want to deal with Pittsburgh's bullpen. or under in the first 5 innings, or full game if you really want to. But Pittsburgh's bullpen, I kind of want to take them out of the equation, really, if you want to play the game, because their bullpen isn't really that great. So that's kind of the way that I would look there. It does look like the money's agreeing with the under, as we have a low total here. It's 7.5, down to 7.5 with juice to the under. 61% of tickets on the over, but 80% of the cash on the under. So it looks like the public kind of wants the over here. Usually you'll see that in a Cubs game. They want it over, especially when the total looks really low like this. But the actual money appears to me to be coming in on the under. I do agree with that. The total's really low. This is a Wrigley Field game, remember? So when you see a really low total like that in Wrigley, what it means is that the wind blowing off of Lake Michigan is blowing in. So Wrigley Field has like the biggest disparity based on the wind, because it's such a like lake effect wind that you'll see totals differ by about 2 runs in Wrigley Field, depending on if the wind is blowing in versus blowing out. So you don't even have to look at the weather report. Like if the total is that low, you pretty much know the wind is blowing in at Wrigley as well, so that is a factor as well. The odds on the Marlins aren't playing today, I don't believe, right? I think they have the day off, the one game I haven't talked about yet is the last game they're on the schedule. Marlins are off today, man. Manzano is Italian. Okay, I gotcha. I should know that. I'm going to get kicked out of my family now, man. You're a disgrace to the family. Don't go up against the family. Marlins fan, that's brutal, man, being a Marlins fan. I am sorry for you. You think their beginning of the season was an aberration? I mean, they're not playing very well, right? Like, I don't know. What are the Marlins doing, man? They have a few young pitchers who I kind of like in there, but I don't know, man. I mean, I like Max Meyer quite a bit there. I don't know. Other than that, I mean, the Marlins just have it really rough right now. They're not drawing fans. Their offense stinks. Their bullpen stinks. I mean, it's rough for them for sure. A couple of good starting pitchers. Ryan Weathers, I kind of think he's pretty decent as well. It's really rough what happened to Alcantara, as I keep pointing out on the show. I mean, he was a really, really good pitcher, and then he just has never bounced back from his injury and surgery issues that he's had over the last couple of years. Very sad. I don't know what you're saying there, Charles. Being autistic like Jameson Taillon, is an advantage. That's why he's pitching so well this year, man. You're going to trade Alcantara. I'll have to look into those guys. Noblemeyer, is he related to Max Meyer? I have no idea. Are they brothers? That would be insane. And Thomas White, I have no idea who those guys are. I'll only start looking at I'll look at like a starting pitching prospect when they're actually like coming up and slated to start a game, and otherwise I'm not even paying attention to them really for the most part, and I really don't pay attention to the hitters that are coming up either. White Sox, Houston, this series is continuing. Houston won the game yesterday after losing the series opener, which makes sense because Houston was in one of those bad return home spots. Probably didn't take Chicago seriously because they're the White Sox. They suck. Lost that game, and then they had a much better game yesterday, which Gusto actually pitched well yesterday, which was surprising to me. So I kind of had that handicap a bit wrong yesterday. Houston won the game 10-2. What are we dealing with in this game? Well, we didn't have much bullpen usage on either side, so I think the bullpen handicap is fairly clean here. And what you got going on is the White Sox have a rested bullpen, but they're not a good bullpen. Houston has a fairly rested bullpen, and they are a good bullpen. Chicago has Davis Martin pitching, and some of these guys in their rotation who I didn't think are really that good are actually starting to perform fairly effectively, including Davis Martin right now. 3.62 ERA, 1.21 whip. That's not bad on the season. He's in pretty decent form right now, coming off a 2-run, 6-inning performance, 7 strikeouts. Granted, it was against the Kansas City Royals, who are not a good offense. He's faced some weak offenses as of late, so really he hasn't faced a good offense for a while, so that is factoring in. He did face Houston back on May 3rd. Had 5 strikeouts, no walks, which is pretty good, but he did allow 3 runs. He allowed 8 hits in 5 innings, which isn't that good, and a home run, so he got hit a little bit hard, but he did limit the damage, so it wasn't really that terrible of a start, and he wasn't wild. So we got to figure out what we think we're going to get out of Martin here, but it does mean Houston saw him not that long ago, so Houston being more familiar with him might do a little bit better against him this time out. He's a little bit worse on the road, too, with a 4.36 road ERA, which isn't that great. Up against Houston overall, his numbers aren't that great either. In 23 at-bats, 391 batting average, 1,025 OPS, and Myers, another guy with Myers as a name there, 2 for 2 off him with a triple and a home run and 3 RBIs, so he hits him well. It's a very limited sample size for the most part, though. So I think it's kind of a mixed bag for Martin coming into this. I think it's easier to handicap Framber Valdez for Houston for the most part. He's pitching well, 3.07 ERA, 1.06 whip. He's obviously in pretty good form right now. He just had 11 strikeouts. Was against a very weak Pittsburgh lineup, but it was a good start for him. He had 9 strikeouts in a complete game, 1-run performance against Tampa. The game before that only allowed 2 runs against Pittsburgh, allowed 1 run the start before the Tampa one against Seattle. Houston has won 6 straight of his starts. He's allowed 1 earned run in 4 of the 6 and allowed 3 and 2 in the other 2. Obviously, he's pitching really well right now. He pitches better at home as well with a 2.2 ERA. So everything is looking pretty good for Valdez. Good splits here. He's in good form right now. Surprisingly, though, his numbers are actually bad against the White Sox. The White Sox have a lot of track record against him. They've seen him a bunch, and shockingly, it hasn't been good for Valdez. Very weird because their offense sucks so bad. In 72 at-bats, he has a 15-3 strikeout walk ratio, which is good. But he's allowed a 319 average, 736 OPS, and 1 home run and 10 RBIs. So Valdez actually has not done that well against him, which is kind of crazy. Luis Robert Jr., however you pronounce his name, is 5 for 16 with a home run and 2 RBIs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts off him. Slater is 6 for 12 with 4 RBIs, so those couple of guys do hit him pretty well, so some player prop potential there. So I'm actually a little bit concerned about Valdez in that game, man, just because of the matchup there. So I could see this game actually going over the total, to be honest. It's got a low total of 7 because there are some arguments that both pitchers could do well here, and both offenses are not good. I gave out a play on the under in the first game of this series, and that was an easy winner there. Both offenses sucking was definitely part of that handicap there. So you are dealing with 2 offenses that aren't good, but both offenses have good numbers against the opposing starting pitchers here. So I could see this 7.5 being basically no room for error there. So I could see this going over the total. 84% of tickets are on the over, though, and only 79% of the cash. I'm kind of surprised the public wants an over in a White Sox-Houston game. You wouldn't think it would be a very popular overplay, even though it does look like more of the ticket percentage than the cash percentage is on that over there. But that is probably the way that I would lean in that game. We'll see. Valdez, just on the surface, Valdez is the better pitcher. But you're laying a huge price for Houston. I don't think that is worth it. They're down from minus 230 to minus 212 in their public. 95% of tickets, only 73% of the cash. So I don't really think that playing Houston is a good idea in that game. Even though Valdez is in very good form right now, I worry about those matchup numbers. Thank you, Andrew. A lot of reports are saying no matter how bad Sandy's pitching, a lot of teams are willing to give up a lot for him. Interesting. One of the better starters in the league. I don't know, man. I mean, he has potential to return to what he was a few years ago, but it hasn't happened yet. I think he's done a little bit better in his last couple of outings, though. But I think you're going to have to see more, like, decent outings out of him for him to really be somebody that, like, teams are going to trade for, unless maybe you get a team that has, like, good pitching coaches and they think they can, like, fix him and work with him. So a team might do something like that. Yeah, well, obviously he's not getting run support, but his pitching numbers are really bad, man. So it's not just the run support. He's been really bad pitching wise. The lake effect only affects Wrigley Field because Wrigley Field is really close to the lake. It's in the northern part of Chicago. The White Sox are from the south side of Chicago, man. That's why they're considered to be like the tough guys from the south side of Chicago. So they're not close to the lake. They're in the very violent area of Chicago, whereas the Cubs are more in like the yuppie area of Chicago. Where more like downtown area, I guess, if you want to call it that. I'm pretty sure I have that right. I've only I'm not that familiar with Chicago, but yeah, so the lake effect only affects Wrigley Field. The White Sox Stadium is Comiskey Park or whatever the hell it's called now, which is way down in the south side of Chicago. So they're not close to the lake. So it only affects Wrigley Field. Zach, what's up, man? You're in right under the gun, man, because I'm about to end the show. Right under the gun. Let's go Royals. And I agree with you. If I didn't mention that the last couple of days, I agree with you on that because Yankees suck, baby. Go Royals. Get a win from me, baby. But I told you yesterday, even though Bubich was pitching for the Royals and he's been really good for them this year, his matchup numbers were not good against the Yankees, and he didn't do well against the Yankees again yesterday. Unfortunately, that's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter is where I'm at. The Tower Game podcast, unfortunately, is no more. So you probably don't want to sign up for the Patreon for it unless you just want to, continue to support us. I guess the money is going into an account that I don't know where that money's going to go at this point because we were using it, putting the money back into the Tower Gang show. But some of it's probably going to go towards Bro Grove still, maybe, but I don't know, man. If you want to go to Bro Grove, it is still happening. There will be no Tower Gang presence there, but there will be good comics there, some big names there. Should be a good time in Florida, Central Florida. I will not be in attendance, so that will be in 9 days now or so, 8 or 9 days. So there might still be some tickets available there. I know, it's the biggest tragedy. Dude, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm very sad about it. I lose, my job and my podcast all in the span of like a couple of weeks. I hate it. We should be too retarded to stop the show, to be honest. So, I don't know, man. Hopefully I don't get this channel nuked for saying that. You're allowed to say it now, right? That word has made a comeback, at least, hopefully. I think that's going to do it for me. I think I just plugged everything right. I still have the fundraiser up. GiveSendGo.com/TowerGangToad is still where that thing is at if you want to help support my figuring out what I'm going to do next in life. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. I appreciate it. A lot of comments this morning. I like it, man. Let's build the channel up, man. Tell people about it. I know I'm too autistic. Maybe I'll start doing, like, maybe some shorts. Maybe trying to get, like, an Instagram presence or something like that. Try to do some shorts where I give out, like, the same pics but in, like, a shorter form. I don't know yet. Figure something out, maybe. Maybe simulcast to Rumble. I don't know. I got to figure some things out. I want to try to build something in, like, the sports betting arena, though, so we will see. But, yeah, subscribe to the show, like the videos. Thanks, guys. That'll do it. Let's have a good Thursday today. Peace out. Nate, I am wearing shorts. Yeah, that's right. People are definitely going to be wearing shorts at Bro Grove, man. It's hot in Florida, and it's sexier to show your legs. So, let's see some man legs. Peace out, man.